First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Samantha Testa is, of course, running for council at large in the city of Utica and is on the line right now. Samantha, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
Good. What's going on?
So we had an opportunity the other day to tour the hospital project and see all of the progress over there. It's really fascinating to see the modern approach that construction takes today. And also, when you just think about the amount of concrete going into that facility, it's amazing.
I know, it is. I just drove by the other day. It's actually coming along pretty good.
It really is. And then, though, we see the area where the garage is supposed to go. What are your thoughts? And, of course, it's that one lone building, which is owned by Brett Truitt. When he purchased it, he said he was going to do it and had a goal of sending the hospital into an eminent domain proceeding. It looks like that's going to have to happen, but it looks like that'll be Utica handling that.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen any updated projects for the parking garage. I heard that it changed several times since I saw it, probably back in 2018-19. So I really don't know what their updated plans are and how much it's changed. So I don't, you know what I mean? I know they're trying to renegotiate the deal from where the city is going to have, what the payment that the city is going to have. And they said that because the parking garage is different from what they had originally planned, and obviously this is from council members that I've talked to in regard to the parking garage. So I can tell you what's changed and how much has changed. But, I mean, I can't see that the city's going to stop the process with the parking garage. I could say that I do believe that they're going to go full throttle with, wanting to put the parking garage there. I just don't know. Location change, things like that. So
do you, I think there's just a lot of unknown right now, and we don't know anything either. So do you feel the project needs the garage?
I mean, at the time when the project was submitted to us, it did need a parking garage. The surface parking was just something that they weren't capable of. It wasn't capable of handling the amount of vehicles that they had intended to go into that area. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't see them doing something else other than
a parking garage.
An actual parking garage.
You know, there are some places where you'll go and they actually have shuttles to the hospital. I mean, first of all, that's expensive. Secondly, who wants to be doing that if you're going to visit a loved one in the hospital or you have to have an appointment at the hospital?
That's what I mean. For the fact of convenience, I mean, it is nice to have something that's right next door.
Yeah,
I mean,
connected.
I know that whenever I've gone to a hospital that's been outside the area, sometimes not having a parking garage close to the hospital gets confusing for people.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Trying to take a shuttle and whatnot. So I think having something that's conveniently close to the hospital. Is something that would definitely be more convenient for people going to visit and working. I mean, you don't want to have to worry about shuttling people in the winter storms and things like that.
Yeah, I experienced that when I had my issue and we went out to Boston. The parking thing was a huge deal because there's really no area to park around there. And nor would there be in this hospital setting. So they set us very strict instructions. Here's where you park in the garage. You have an appointment, so you have a pass to get in the garage. And then the garage took you right into the hospital. I mean, that convenience, I think, is, especially when people are really in need of medical help, that's a huge convenience. Without
a doubt. And I mean, and then you don't have to worry about the vehicle and the traffic of shuttles going back and forth.
Sure.
People can just conveniently go into a garage, park there, and then, go back to the garage and go home. So I think that that's an even bigger convenience. I mean, people, no matter what they're going to a hospital for, sometimes, something good, sometimes not something good. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't see what having a shuttle would be beneficial. Put up a parking garage. I just, think that they need to figure out the kinks of putting a parking garage up inside the city and, getting all the financials and the final plans done.
And the only reason I bring up shuttle is what some other places do, but I don't think you have the surface area for surface parking around there. You would have no choice but to come up with some sort of a plan to get people in. All right, what is your one of the things that you've been talking about in regards to running for council at large is infrastructure in the city.
Right. Yeah, infrastructure is another huge thing, and that's, not to, go back to the hospital, but a lot of people talk about, like, what's the benefit of the hospital going downtown? I mean, and if you just look at the infrastructure, the roads in and around that project, I mean, that's, millions of dollars alleviated from the city just from that component, too. So, I mean, there is some positives, not just with the hospital going, that's been beneficial for the city as well.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that infrastructure, I mean, that's the biggest complaint that I think I've ever had on the council is the roads. I mean, I have people that, I'll see, I wait tables on a Friday night, and I'll see somebody that's not, doesn't live in Utica. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't live in Utica, I can't vote for you, but I just want to tell you the roads are horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could drive down Broad Street, and it's like,
oh my gosh, it's awful.
I mean, you've literally got to swerve from one side of the road to the other. I mean, I've hit potholes. My my truck is, I felt like it was going to be eaten by the ground. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, the condition of our roads. And for that to be even an argument, I thought would be something that we've, been past, considering that we put a referendum out, put together a plan, and the people voted on it. So obviously they, they want their roads paved, So I don't know what other way that you can get around it. It's been, I think, from 2000 and, I don't know, maybe the year 2000 to the year 2016 when we passed the referendum, I think 32 miles of roads were paved over the course of 17 years.
How is it hard? Why is it hard? This is my biggest question. I don't understand. It seems like it's a pretty obvious thing. The roads that need the most work should be done first. And why is it that, Broad Street hasn't been done in so many years, but there are roads that get paid every year?
Broad Street's got an issue where look, I'm not the engineer.
It could be the sewer lines. It could be collapsing.
That road
but
just
then if that's a road that needs to be
collapse.
done every 2 years, do that one every 2 years.
You're going to do Broad Street every 2 years and then not do other parts of the city for 50?
My point is that's what they're already doing.
And that's the point of having this paving program put on a rotation. So you're talking paving every road in the city over the next 15 years. And the biggest problem that the city had was they said that they never had the money in their budget to pave the roads, okay? So what we did was we took $2.5 million that were regularly paved through CHIP funding, state funding, and whatnot, and then we put it on a $2.5 million, well, anywhere from $2 to $2.5 million borrowing plan inside the city. So when we looked at the bond debt schedule over the course of the next 7 or 8 years, the payment towards the bond debt schedule went down from, well, it's good. It will be going down from, I think our payment's $5 million this year, and about 6 or 7 years the payment would be close to, I think, $900,000 to $800,000.
Yeah.
Say that there was no borrowing. Now, the fact that we would be borrowing $2.5 million every year brings a payment to that principal and interest to about, I think it was about $160,000. Okay, so you're adding that to your budget on top of paying that $5 million a year towards your bond debt service. So the fact that they say, oh, we don't have the money, it's going to cripple the budget, it's going to do this. Well, listen, there's a lot of things that could cripple the budget. You know what I mean? I mean, we went and just bonded $8 million for streetlights. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go inside the budget. The problem is that when does your reserve fund get to the point where $8 million is not enough? I mean, what are you going to just keep doing? Putting it up to 10, putting it up to 11, putting it up to 12. At some point in time, you're going to have to utilize that money and put it towards your budget. Yeah. I mean, you've hit a 0% increase this year, a 2% decrease last year. I mean, and we're still coming out with $1 million surplus. So either you weren't budgeting correctly in your last year's budget, okay, or you were still overtaxing people because that's the only way you get $1 million surplus.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's different factors, that happen obviously throughout the year. But at some point in time, and that's part of the reason that we put that the paving plan together, was because we looked at it and we said, okay, we've got all these capital improvement projects. Let's put one of the biggest improvements that needs to be done inside the city, which is paving roads, inside the budget. That way, we're putting it on a rotation, and we're not waiting 50 years to pave a road.
Sam, does that debt include the garage?
No, that's not included yet because they didn't borrow for that funding yet. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I have Mike here that
it wouldn't be included. So say if we put the payment towards the parking garage in there, you say your payment's $5 million, your payment would now go to $5.5 million. So you would be taking that $500,000 out of the budget and going to put it towards the parking garage.
I have Mike here that says if we don't want to fix the roads, we can lease them out to NASA and they can use them for training for the upcoming moon missions.
Listen, I'm with them. I just don't. That's my biggest frustration. And here we talk about a city budget. Now, on top of the fact that we just were awarded $64 million from the federal government, okay, and they're saying, oh, we don't know what we can use the funding for. Well, that's all you got to do is call your congressman, call your senator, okay, and find out what the funding could be used for.
Well, I have to tell you this, though. I was there, and Schumer didn't know, and Palmieri didn't know, and Piceni, I don't think, knew either. And I think
so you have the money, but you don't know what you can use it for.
Schumer said something like, "Yeah, we'll get the regulations out in the next couple of weeks here," and then that was it.
Wow,
they hadn't read the bill yet.
I have a booklet from the American Recovery Act that was given out, and specifically one of the funding options for that is infrastructure. So, I mean, even if you're talking about what you can't use for your budget, I mean, it specifically states. I mean, I'm sure there's other guidelines and whatnot, but I think even Schumer said that it could, in one of his quotes that he sent out that I read, that you could utilize that money for infrastructure.
Yeah, he was throwing out all kinds of possibilities. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
you could do an advertising campaign for local businesses. He said you could buy ads for local businesses. He was throwing out all kinds of stuff.
Well,
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, little things like that. I mean, are my biggest thing is let's start rebranding the image inside the city. You know, let's start looking at the positives. I mean, people don't want to come here and listen on the news every day that somebody's getting shot or whatnot. I mean, there's got to be a point in time that there's so much positive going on inside the city that's got to outweigh the bad that's going on, too. So, I could even see some positive campaign, something like that coming, because when would you normally use your funds out of a budget for something like that? So
you're
talking a whole budget.
I would just say that
$64 million.
I could see. Can we do two things at once? Can we pave the arteria, or pave the Parkway, pave Broad Street, and start at the hospital project and start working your way out, because that's going to be the newest part of the city, and begin repaving roads. That becomes the major. I mean, that alone would change the look of the city.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if you look at any type of theory that's been brought up in the past about municipalities, I mean, something simple as the broken window theory you could relate back to, okay? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a broken window on a house, what do you think is going to look better, a window with a new window or a window with a broken window? I mean, that's what's part of the problem that's wrong with inside the city, is that there is a lot of broken things. I mean, you're going to ask me what you could do at once. I mean, if it was up to me, I would be doing everything at once, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, I didn't have that in my authority to do that, and it's got to come from the top down. But I think that even if you look at $5 million, okay, in paving, and if you looked at what happened a couple of years ago with the paving schedule and when it was done, I mean, they know that they're going to pave $5 million of roads each year. So wouldn't you think that when January, February comes, you would say, let me put my paving schedule out to not one paving plant, two paving plants, or three paving plants. Yep. Get them going at once. I mean, you've got 212 miles of roads inside a city our size. There's other ways that you can get to a place that you have to go to for an inconvenience of a couple of weeks in order to.
Now, I take a slow travel route over having my car destroyed.
So does the do you fix though? Do you have to fix the sewer lines that are collapsing first before you pave over them?
That's some of the things that we talked about with. The city. The city's done the major sewer lines. I mean, that's one thing that I will give, the administration credit for, is that they did get a jump on the sewer infrastructure inside the city, ahead of the mandate that the federal government was putting down to local municipalities. So if you look at the 5S corridor, if you look at a number of areas throughout the city, I mean, they've put, oh my God, I think close to like maybe $50 to $60 million, and I mean, I'm ballparking that number. Yeah. But in sewer lines inside the city. And, when we put this together, we worked with the Mohawk Valley Water Authority to talk about what lines that they would replace, when we would be paving road infrastructure. I mean, no one has the money to pave and fix the infrastructure of 212 miles of roads. And not all 212 miles of roads need to be, totally reconstructed from the Earth's core all the way up to the top surface. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do that, doesn't take that much money in order to repair some of these lines. So again, this is some of the things that we go back to. The city was still crying poverty, up to last week when they're sitting on an $8 million reserve fund. I mean, there has to come a time when people got to wake up and realize that, you can only be fed a line of, nonsense for so long before you put your foot down and say, listen, let's put a 5-year budget plan together. Okay. So we're not talking about every year what we plan on doing inside the city and what we plan on doing with our budget. I mean, so there's a lot of things that we could do.
I got to wrap it up, and a couple of quickies. You're running for council at large. Is that where you stop?
Is that where I stop?
Is that where you stop?
I'm on a day-to-day basis. I mean,
okay, but I'll finish the part two of my.
That's a good answer.
There is a mayoral position that's going to be opening up sometime soon.
Listen, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I went to school for 8 years to become a teacher, and there's nothing that I love more in the world than teaching students. And unless they increase the mayor's salary to $210,000, and I can't be leaving anytime soon.
All right, and then somebody asking, what about before you fix the roads, allowing a company to come in and film a movie? The idea is Lost in Utica. A family is lost with nowhere to go. Inside a pothole.
How will we steal that thing?
Tell them we're lost trying to be found,
It's not a pothole, it's a sinkhole. What am I going to do?
Gosh.
Okay, Samantha, interesting stuff. Thank you.
Listen, I like those questions. They're better than the ones I just did before.
Cool. Okay. You have a great day.
Take care, guys.
Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
She wants the mayor's salary to be increased to $200,000. What are they paying over at that school district? Right?
Hey,
man.